guys! So, the most celebrated and anticipated event of the entire Planner Addict calendar is just around the corner. That's right, it's almost One Book July, and like so many planner addicts around the globe, I have been asking myself over the past couple of weeks the burning question of, what am I going to do for One Book July? So, just a little bit of background on my history with One Book July. I didn't take part in the first year of the challenge in 2014 for the simple reason that I didn't know about it. I had seen a few planner videos on YouTube at the time, but I hadn't yet fallen down the rabbit hole into true planner addiction. Technically, I did actually do One Book July because, believe it or not, I only had one planner at the time. But fast forward 1 year to 2015, and I was a complete and utter planner addict with about 10 or 12 planners on the go. So I wanted to take part in the challenge, but I felt like, oh, there's no way I could give up all of my planners. That's impossible. Which is quite funny considering that the year before I had only had one planner. So I kind of went into it thinking like, well, I'll make a concession here and a concession there, but I'm still basically going to keep about like 8 or 9 of my 10 or 12 planners. And then somehow, about a week in, I can't explain it, but it's like the spirit of One Book July just came over me. And I kind of had an epiphany, and I was like, oh my goodness, here are all these ways I can consolidate. And so by the end of the month, I had gone from like 10 or 12 planners, like I said, down to 3. And so it was a really momentous transformational event, and I was quite moved by it. And I remember thinking like, oh, I'm really looking forward to next One Book July. Who knows what that will bring? So when One Book July 2016 came around, I was really excited about it. I was like, okay, I can't wait, I'm ready. I'm not going to go down to one book, but I'm going to go down to 2 books, because at the time I probably had at least 8 or 9 planners on the go again. And so I thought it's going to be a really good time for like, kind of like a spring cleaning, but in July. And I'm just going to go down to basics, which was what the original challenge was. And so I thought I'll just use my personal planner and my work planner and just use these 2 books and get rid of everything else. So I had a finance planner, I had a daily planner, I had a home planner, I had a meal planner, I had all kinds of different planners, and I just got rid of all of them and put all of the information into these 2 books. And I kind of had like the opposite experience from the previous year, where like by a week or 2 in, I was just miserable and I really missed all of my other planners. And so I kind of ended up gradually adding them back in. And by the end of the month, I think I had more planners than I started off with. So this year, I was like, oh, I'm not sure what I'm going to do, because I know that I don't want to go down to 1 book or even 2 books, and I'm actually really, really happy with my lineup at the moment. I feel like over the course of the year, I've kind of honed it, sometimes intentionally, sometimes unintentionally, just through busyness, and I've kind of distilled it down to a system that, while some might still consider to be sprawling, I feel is like an oiled machine, and I feel like I only have the planners that work for me, that I need, that are functional, but that it also gives me enough scope to be able to categorize different parts of my life, which I really like to do. And it just works for me, in short, and I'm really happy with it. So obviously, last year, version 2.0 was introduced, where instead of going down to 1 book, you could do 1 project. And then this year, there's a 3rd version as well, Go Big or Go Home. And I'll talk a bit more in a minute about my thoughts about those different ones. So we've got 3 different versions of the project, of the challenge, right? So the first one, the original one, is 1 book, 1 pen, 1 month. And apart from the first year that it ran when I didn't actually know about it, I have never actually done this purest form of the challenge. But as Romany's pointed out, most recently in the video that she made last week about how there are no rules to One Book July. There are no rules to One Book July, which is very liberating. So she said, like, don't feel like you have to do it exactly like this or like that, because there are no rules, there are only guidelines. And I'll link that video down below. It's fantastic. So I kind of never really feel like, oh, I absolutely must do just 1 book. But I think the point of that challenge is to simplify your system and sort of get it down to basics. And I feel like I don't want to simplify my system anymore. I feel like it's already as basic as I want it to be, because like I said, last year I went down to just the 2 planners, and I was miserable. I didn't like it. I wanted to have other planners. And so as Romany said, the point of that challenge is to go down to basics and then slowly add things back in until you know exactly what works for you. So if you have a system that you're happy with and you don't want to mess with it, then why mess with it just for the sake of it, so that you can say that you've participated in the challenge? And that's kind of how I feel like now. I feel like I don't want to try to go down to 2 books, because I did that last year. And last year I was really excited to do it, and I wanted to do it. And this year, for reasons that I'll go through with you in a second, I don't want to mess with the system that I have. So let me just show you my July lineup, and you can see what I mean. So first up is my personal planner, which is a Hobonichi Weeks, and I use this for everything that is not work related, basically just my personal life. So I'm going to do an updated setup video of this soon, so I'll go through how I've been using it. But basically, I mean, you've seen this, probably most of you. I've got appointments on one side, to-dos on the other, and then in the notes pages I just have collections, so things like YouTube videos that I want to film, planner lineups, random notes about stuff. A lot of it's planner related because it's personal, so that's like, you know, my hobby. Films that I want to watch, TV shows, coupon codes, all of that kind of stuff. That's my personal planner, and it's also my wallet. So this is just like a really basic intrinsic part of my system. If I were to go down to basics, this would be one of the ones that I would choose. And the second one that I would choose, so like my kind of very, very, very most minimal core system, would be 2 planners, personal and work. So my work planner has everything work related. So all of my appointments, all of my to-dos, all of my notes for like different projects, ideas for future research projects, etc., etc. So that is what's in this planner, and I don't want to change that either. So if I really had to, as I did last year, I could function with just these 2, but I don't want to. So moving on, I have a daily planner, and the daily planner is a planner that doesn't actually have any unique information, as I've said in many videos. So basically all of the information that I really need is in these 2. But I often, especially if it's a day that's really busy where I have a lot of stuff going on, I like to just make a big to-do list. So I take all of the stuff that's in these planners and I just put it into a chronological list. So it's work and personal combined. And I also put in things that wouldn't make it into these planners because it's like mundane everyday things like make a cup of tea, make breakfast, take the dogs out for a walk, stuff that is so routine that it doesn't have to go in these planners, if you see what I mean, because I do them every day, but I still, you know, they still take time, and I still like to see them in a list, especially if I'm really busy. So that's my daily planner. And then I have my Leuchtturm 1917 weekly planner, which is my pretty planner. So this is a planner that I don't really need. This just has the same information as the work and the personal planner, but it's in pretty format. It's with stickers. So this, I guess, in a way is kind of like a master planner. By the way, if you can hear snoring in the background, that's my dog Tails. He often likes to come in and sleep and snore very loudly when I'm making videos. So there's really no reason that I need to have this because all the information is in my work planner and my personal planner, but this just presents it in a different way. I get to see an overview of the whole week, work and personal combined, and most importantly, it lets me use stickers. So if I were to cut my system down to the very basics, I would get rid of this planner because I really don't need it. But it makes me so happy. It just brings me so much joy. I absolutely love it. And I've had it since the beginning of the year. So one of the reasons that I don't want to disrupt my system is that all of my planners are bound books. And because of that, first of all, I've already decorated July, and so it would just be blank. And that just seems like a waste. I wouldn't get to use all of these beautiful pages that I've had so much fun decorating and are just waiting to be used. And secondly, I would just have a blank month, and that would annoy me because I want to keep this at the end of the year. So that's why the pretty planner is staying in the lineup. And then we are down to my last 2 planners. You see, it's really quite a minimalist system compared to what I've had at some points in my life. This is my small hardbound Erin Condren, and I'm using this as an expenses tracker, or like a finance planner. So at the beginning, I've just put some positive visualizations for the year, like spend wisely, enjoy abundance, etc. And then I use the monthly to track my bank balance. And then I'm using the weeklies just to write down all of my expenses. And at the end of the week, I'll add them up. So this is a new planner. It just started this week. And so one reason that I wouldn't want to give it up for One Book July is because I've just started it. I've been looking forward to using it for like a month and a half, or at least a month since it arrived. I think it arrived at sometime at the end of May. And I really want to use it. And again, because it's a bound planner, I don't want to have a whole blank month. And I could put this information into my personal planner. That's what I did last year when I did One Book July. I had a finance planner and I decided to give it up and put all the information in here. And it was fine, but it ended up getting a bit crowded and I didn't enjoy it. And I kind of basically stopped tracking expenses. And when I do that, that's when my finances kind of go out the window and take a turn for the worse, and I start getting overdrawn. So I've decided that it's not a good idea to do that. It's much better to have a separate finance planner. I don't know why, that just seems to be what works for me. And so both because I enjoy using this new planner and because it has practical consequences, I've decided that it's better to keep it. And then the last planner is my home planner. So this is another new one. This is the big hardbanner in Condren, which also just started this week. And for those of you who saw my Planner Addict Dilemma video of last week, I was trying to decide between this and a couple of other options. And so as you can see, I went for this. And thank you to all of those of you who recommended going for this one, because you were so right. This was absolutely the right decision. I really love it. I've decorated the July monthly spread and also, put plans in. And I've also planned out the first week. And so this is going to be another pretty planner, but this is for joint appointments and tasks for me and James and our dogs, so for the whole household basically. And so this will stay open on our table and we can access it at all times. And I just love this one. I've had so much fun with it since I started using it, and it's just really satisfying. So again, I could give this up, but why? For one thing, again, I've just started using it. I'm having so much fun with it. I feel like it would really kind of take some of the happiness out of my life to stop using it. And that's not the point of One Book July. Also, again, it's bound and I want to keep it at the end of the year because it will be like a record of our year. And so I don't want to have a blank month because that would be annoying. And also for practical purposes, because this is the planner that James and I both use, it's useful for him to be able to see my work schedule, and I like to be able to see his work schedule, and I could put that information in my personal planner, but then he wouldn't be able to see my work schedule. And it also has to-dos that we both need to know about, mostly to do with our dogs, but it's useful. And so again, if you have a system that works, even if you have multiple planners, if you know that that works and you like it, why give it up just for the sake of it if you've already tested it and you know? So basically that leads me to the situation where I have 6 planners in use, and I don't really want to give any of them up because they all work for me and they're all tried and tested, and I'm really happy with the system. And that might change at some point in the future, but I just don't feel like I want to give up any of them now. So that is the original version, I guess, out the window. Even though there are no rules, I think having 6 planners and not getting rid of any of them kind of defeats the purpose of the original version of One Book July. Version 2, which was introduced last year, is one project, 1 month. And when that was introduced last year, I felt like, one project? I already have more work projects than I can handle, and the idea of taking on another project outside of work just felt overwhelming and like a big chore, and I just didn't want to do anything. It just felt like giving myself another job. And when I'm not working, I kind of, like, sometimes there are things that I have to do, but I try to keep them to a minimum, so that just didn't seem like fun, and I didn't want to do that. And that was kind of how I'd felt sort of when I started thinking about One Book July this year as well. It's like, project, no, I have too many projects already. Version 3, which was introduced this year, I thought was really interesting. It's called Go Big or Go Home. And like the other versions of the challenge, it's kind of been made very clear that you can interpret that how you want to. So you can go up a size, you can go down a size, you can like switch layouts, you can do something different basically. And I like the idea of going into a bigger size. I like the name, like Go Big or Go Home. So I thought, well, technically I could kind of say that I'm doing that, because my previous home planner was in this. This is a Disc Agenda Manta, which is an A5 size, and this is actually just a little bit bigger than A5. And the big hardbound Erin Condren is quite a bit bigger, as you can see. So technically I could say, well, I'm doing version 3 of the challenge, Go Big or Go Home, because I've moved into a bigger planner for my home planner. But that kind of felt like cheating to me. Even though there are no rules, it sort of felt like if the point of the challenge is to do something a little bit different, a little bit exciting, to challenge yourself, then what's the point of saying, yeah, I'm doing One Book July, I'm doing version 3 because I've moved into a bigger planner, which I was planning to move into anyway, and so I'm not really doing anything different for July than what I would have been doing anyway. Does that make sense? It's like I would be kind of saying that I was doing One Book July just on a technicality, but I wouldn't actually be doing anything different that would make it stand out. And because the last 2 years I really felt like I did participate in it in a way that was memorable to me, I just felt like that wouldn't really mean anything if I was like, yeah, I'm doing One Book July, I've moved into a bigger planner, but I was already planning to move into this planner. So I was kind of stuck up until last night. I was just like, wow, like I think that I'm going to say I'm not doing One Book July this year. And that made me sad because of the history, and because I really love being part of the community, and starting to see all the One Book July videos and people getting really excited about what they're doing for One Book July. And I was just like, I think I'm going to make a video saying I'm not going to participate in One Book July. And then somehow last night I was thinking about my daily planner, and then I had another One Book July epiphany. The spirit of One Book July mercifully came upon me again, just like it did in 2015. So I've been thinking a lot about my daily planner. I've been wondering whether I actually need a daily planner or not. Obviously I don't, because it's kind of it's just something that I like to have. I could just make notes in this notebook which I have in my week. So this notebook I use for just like kind of random notes, sometimes shopping lists, and I use it for daily lists when I'm out and I don't have my daily planner with me, because I don't take this out with me. Because usually when I'm out I have at least this, and often my work planner as well. And as I've said many times, I draw the limit at carrying 2 planners around. Carrying 3 planners around is just a bit much even for me. So because the weeks doesn't have a huge amount of room in it, like you can't really make an extensive daily list, I like having this notebook, because if I need to I can just make a long to-do list and not have to worry about running out of space. So I've been thinking to myself, really, to consolidate and make my system even more efficient, I could just get rid of this daily planner altogether and just always use the notebook in the weeks, and then I wouldn't have to think, where's my daily planner? I could just always know that it was in here. But I really like having a separate daily planner. For one thing, just because I'm a planner addict and I like using multiple planners, and for another, because it's just kind of nice having its own book where I feel like it motivates you to use it more if you have a really nice book. I think that's some of the reason why I like having my finance planner separate as well, because if it's just an insert, if it's like a little notebook in my weeks, I feel like I don't enjoy it as much. Does that make sense? I think a lot of the appeal of planning is how it looks, and like the feel of the book and the feel of the pen. And that's another note, by the way. Obviously I'm not going to be doing the 1 pen part of One Book July, because I have 1 pen per planner, so 6 planners, 6 pens. Anyway, so I just don't enjoy it as much if it's in the week. So I like having the note pages in here if I need them, if I'm on the go. But if I'm at home, why not have this one? Because I enjoy it, and it makes me happier about doing all of the tasks if I have a nice book to put them in. So I decided I didn't want to get rid of the daily planner. I've experimented before July, like just over the last few weeks, trying just using this, and I really missed having this dedicated daily planner. But something that I have also missed is last year I was using undated notebooks for my daily planner. So because it's just a to-do list, I don't actually need the dates. It's just every day I just write a to-do list of the things I have to do that day, and I don't carry them over to the next day because it's totally self-contained. It's like if I don't finish those things, then I just start over again with whatever I have to do the next day, but I don't need to refer back to anything. I don't need to know like when I did X. It's not one of my main core planners that has appointments and stuff in it. It just is a list of to-dos. So really it doesn't need dates. And I kind of agonized last year about whether I should buy a Hobonichi or not, because I wanted to use an A6 Hobonichi and I thought it would be a good size for a daily planner, but I didn't want to give up on using my notebooks, because if I had this and it's dated, I felt like I'd have to commit for the whole year to just using this, and I wouldn't be able to use my undated notebooks. And in addition to my undated notebooks, I also have quite an extensive planner graveyard, which you may have seen, that I want to use for doing like kind of experimental plan with me's as a master planner, like kind of just doing a rotation that I've talked about in another video. But I have a daily planner, a Moleskine, and I really am kind of attached to that daily planner. I've bought one every year for the past 4 years, I think. In fact, in 2014, the first year of One Book July, when I didn't know about the challenge, my one planner was a Moleskine daily diary. So every year I've bought one since then, because I've sort of been loyal to them, but then I haven't known what to do with them and they've ended up in the graveyard. So I have one this year, which I haven't used since February. And so I started thinking, and I think that this might have been subconsciously triggered by something that Romany said in that same video about the rules of One Book July. She gave an example of a project that somebody did last year for version 2.0, where I think she said that this person had a whole bunch of different kinds of fountain pen inks, and so she decided in One Book July to change out the ink in her fountain pens every day or every other day so that she could try them all out. And at the time I thought, oh, that's interesting. I can't really do that because I don't have a lot of different inks and it seems kind of like a hassle, but I like the idea of, like doing something fun. So project to my mind had been like, I think one like example was like, sorting out your finances, or like clearing out your spare room, or just things that seemed like work and not fun. And that was why I was like, oh my God, I don't want to do a project. But that fountain pen thing, I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then I kind of forgot about it. So last night I was thinking about this. I was like, I wonder if there's a way I could use my daily planner, the Moleskine daily planner that's in my graveyard. I really miss it. And then I thought, like what it would be obviously best suited to is a daily planner, but I can't use it because I've got my Hobonichi on the go. And I have all these blank notebooks, which I wish I could use. And then all of a sudden it was like a light went off and I was like, wait, for One Book July, why don't I make that my project? Every day I'll use a different planner for my daily planner, a different notebook or a different planner, and I'll just cycle through them. I've probably got at least like 10 or 15 between the different planners and notebooks. And so every day I'll use a different one, and then like I'll get to use all of them. I'll get to see which ones I like better, which ones are, better size, which ones like, how they work, how I like them. And every day will be exciting because every day I'll get to use a different one for my daily planner. And it doesn't really matter if they're all in the same place because, like I said, it's just to-do lists. And I'll either be using the Moleskine, which is in the graveyard at the moment, so it's not like, I'm keeping that perfect and I don't want to mess it up by having pages blank because it's already been blank for months. Or undated notebooks, which, if I've decided to use them for daily planner, then I can write one page and then leave it blank and then come back to it later and just use the next page whenever that may be. So I got really excited about that idea because I thought this gives me a chance to use all of my different notebooks that I haven't been able to use and use some of the planners in my planner graveyard for something kind of dedicated. And it'll be really exciting because every day I'll have a new planner to look forward to, which is every planner addict's dream, right? Like you get to use a new planner every day with no consequences because either they're already in my graveyard or they're undated. And so I was just like totally swept away by this idea. I'm really excited about it. And so that is going to be my One Book July project, is using a different daily planner every day. And so I think I won't use this one, at least until I've gone through all the other ones, because I've been using this all year, so this isn't really exciting. And I don't really mind having some blank pages in this because it already does have blank pages in it. And that's because I don't need a daily planner every day. So this is actually kind of a downside to having a dated planner for a daily planner, because really a blank notebook is ideal because then you don't have any blank pages. And I do sometimes like to go back and see what I was doing. It's like, oh, that's what I was doing in January. Interesting. But it doesn't really matter that much. And I think at this point, because I've been kind of going off of it a little bit and considering the idea of maybe stopping using it, I feel like it's time to shake things up a bit. And what could be more exciting of a way to shake things up but than by using a different planner every day in July. So I'll go through all of the ones that I have and then start over again. Let's say if I get 2 weeks through and I've used one planner, I've used every planner once, then I'll just go back and start using them again. So I'm really, really excited about that. That is going to be my One Book July, and I feel like that's kind of taken the pressure off because I don't feel guilty anymore about not going down to one book, which I knew that I didn't want to do. And I don't feel like I'm just kind of like getting by on a technicality because I switched into a bigger planner, and I don't have to say I'm not doing One Book July. I've actually got a project for July which I'm really excited about and really looking forward to, and I can't wait for it to start. So 1st of July coming up right around the corner, and I can't wait. I'm really excited about it. So that is my One Book July. That's what I'm going to be doing for One Book July, and I'll give updates, I think, every week, just to show you which planners I've been using and how it's been working. And I'm really excited to embark on this One Book July journey again with everybody, and looking forward to seeing everyone else's videos. So that's my One Book July, the beginning of One Book July, and I'll keep you updated. So if you're taking part in One Book July, I look forward to seeing your videos and updates, and wishing us all a great start to One Book July. So as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will be back again soon.